Thank you, President Barty. Board members, first on the agenda, we will have a presentation. We are always proud when our students do great things, and we have wonderful students in the district. But then we had a couple that stood out this past year during track season. So I'm going to ask Mr. Coach Darrell Granger to come forward and tell us exactly what happened, and we have some presentations at the front. Today is Coach Granger's birthday. He turned 60 years old today.
All right.
Yeah. So we're happy. You know, he said he'll stay a little while longer before retirement. But brother, you look good for 60. That's good. That's good.
I'm just holding this mic till Doc finish. But I want to thank the board and Dr. Porterfree for allowing us to come this afternoon. Last track season, we had a great season with our field events. Trevante Kane was our state champion in the shot put, 59-11. Is that right? 59-7 in the shot put. He brought home the gold, and that ball that you see,
Yeah.
we dipped it in gold for him, so we're going to present that to the school, and they're going to put that in the case at the school tomorrow. Malik is at Tarleton right now playing football. His mom is here to receive his pendant, and Malik finished third in the triple jump and fourth in the high jump. So we want to reward these young men with some things that they can cherish for a long time. And I want to thank the board and this school district for doing that for these kids, because I know some coaches at other districts that when their kids win an individual event in a state meet, they don't do anything for them. So I really want to thank the board for doing this for our kids in Port Arthur. Without further ado, Dr. Mitchell, will you come up, since you were the principal of the high school last year when these young men participated? If any of the board members want to come down and present the rings to.
You want to introduce your staff who were with you?
Yes, sir. I was going to, I can do it now. Coach Jones, he coached mid-distance and quarter milers last year. Coach Castile, he coached the triple jumpers and the high jumpers, which was Malik. Coach Frost was the shot put coach, and he coached Trevante. I was just the overseer of the program, so I'm not going to take credit for the success of those young men, because they've done a great job of coaching them. I'm just happy to have men like that underneath me to get the job done when it's time.
Great.
So, Dr. Mitchell, if you want to come up also.
And we want to congratulate Coach Castile. We're happy to see him back. He is now the head coach at West Orange. So we're happy for him and proud of him as well.
Yes, sir, up there. Trevante, well, Ms. Jones, Malik's mom, you can come up and get Malik's pendant, please.
And because of COVID, we're not having a reception, but we do have something for you to take as well, parents and the students, so they can have something to eat at home.
You can stand right there, and we go open them all at the same time, because I like to see the expressions of everybody's face when we open them up. Trevante, our state champion.
Yay!
Trevante called me every month this summer, and he said, "Coach, the ring's in." I say, "Trevante, you would be the first one to know when I get them."
We still remember his commercial. They kept running that when he said, "I knew I had it." I knew it. No, that's our ball. He can't get the ball. He can't get the ball now.
Coach Jones. Coach Castile, Coach Frost. Yeah, Castile come with all his rings.
I got some extra rings down there.
No. Give it to make sure the parents have theirs and the students. I think there's a parent back there too. Huh? I think there's.
Yeah, we do have Javante parents here. Can y'all stand up and be acknowledged? Thank you all for all the hard work and allowing us to coach them last year. We appreciate that.
Peach cobblers. I said since we're not doing the COVID stuff, so.
Well, I can't. Well, okay. On the count of three, we can flip them, and I just want to see some facial expressions. 1, 2, 3. And Tink is the one that designed this ring. I let him pick it and design it for us. So this idea was Tink's.
Very nice.
All right.
Okay, still around fingers and rings.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep going till I get the one that I really want.
Yeah.
But to have a state champion is a big deal in any sport that we compete in, and I really do appreciate Tink and Malik this past season.
Very nice. Congratulations to you all.
Everybody good?
Everybody
Okay.
good.
Thank you, Dr. Portery and the board for allowing us to come and show this off.
Of course. You give the mic to him, to Boom.
Well
And then you get it, yeah, huh?
Did you see it already?
Well, of course I did. We looked at it earlier. Look how beautiful. I like that red, and it's beautiful.
Good job, Coach.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
it's really nice. Let me see if I can. Oh yeah. She's telling me to steal it, Coach.
I'm not.
And just give you back the box.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
It's a good birthday gift.
Oh yeah. At least I got a ring on my birthday.
Yeah, and a peach cobbler.
That's not, you get as much as this brain.
Yeah.
You never came out.
Congratulations.
We made a deal. I told Coach, I said, football team, our track team, seems like they're getting close. Could be the team. Just only one practice.
It is. I really.
No, this is a shot last year.
Yeah, he's in college now.
College, he goes to
Oh, he's in okay.
Yeah.
Lamar gave him a full scholarship.
Oh, that's nice.
Shots. That's what we couldn't beat the money Lamar gave him. Even though Lamar covered it.
Okay, let me get myself together before you start. 'Cause I got all this stuff over here. Okay, I won't talk too long, but just long enough to get some stuff.
You got 5 pages.
What you looking at? Don't be looking at the stuff. We won't be long. I'm gonna talk real fast. Look, a poker game. I'm gonna save you some money. We gonna stay here till 9.
Like you used to do, huh?
I'm trying to take out my paper that I had for the two people's name. I know their name, but hold up one second. Talk fast. I'm gonna talk. Well, we
Sound like you at an auction.
okay.
So, Jordan.
We'll continue our staff reports. Board members, thank you for, once again, for allowing us to do some things for our students as well as our staff members. It has been quite a year starting off. Of course, we had 17 months of excitement with COVID, and now we are back. And so far, we're doing well. We're solid. This is the 24th day of classes, and our students are doing well. We were out on Monday, September 6th for Labor Day. Then on the Tuesday, the 7th, was a staff development. And this past Tuesday, September 14th, we were out due to bad weather. Yeah, we have bad weather days made up in our calendars, correct. So we are appreciative and thankful to God that it wasn't as bad as they said it was going to be. We experienced rain, and that was okay. All of our schools, and I want to thank publicly Mr. Rito and Mr. Scipion. The day of, they were out assessing campuses to make sure that there was no damage throughout, because it was a lot of water, and we wanted to make sure that our campuses were ready for the next day. We did have a power outage at Lincoln Middle School and at Washington that day. It was a community neighborhood that it was out, but Entergy was on it, and they brought it back up. So we didn't lose any food. Everything was fine, and we were ready to come back on the next day. The district continues to encourage staff and students that are 12 and up, older, to consider getting the vaccine, if they have not been vaccinated as of yet. The mask mandate is still in effect, and it has helped us to become aware of what is going on in our community. We have experienced some COVID cases with staff and students, some of which were due to exposures from family members, not all school related. And some had to stay at home because they have been exposed to family members. And they didn't have COVID, but we have some that have had COVID, and I'm sure we will have some in the future. We understand the responsibility is just not on our custodians to mitigate the spread of the virus. It is the responsibility of all staff and students. So we have to do our due diligence in ensuring that we are washing our hands, that we're not talking in the face of others, and that we're wearing our mask every day in order to be able to keep our students and staff and community safe. When we look at what we're doing to help our schools stay open, we also take in account families, because we understand that a student or a staff member could contract the virus on campus and bring it home. So we have to do everything in our due diligence to try and mitigate the spread, as we have asked our parents to help us to try and mitigate the spread of the virus when it comes to their home, when it comes to bringing it to home. So we're going to continue to work with our custodians, and they're doing everything they can to disinfect. Nurses in special education, we understand, and life skill workers are at the front lines of the battle against COVID-19. So it's imperative that we give them the most effective tools to ensure their safety and safety of our students. The Custodial Department is in the process of delivering and training staff to use the Victory electrostatic handheld sprayer on every campus in order to kill the virus on all touch points and surfaces. So we have a new machine that I'm going to ask Boone to bring up so we can see exactly what it's a 2-minute video. I just want you to see how it works. But we do have one in the for all of our nurses and for our special needs.
So we use this on a weekly basis?
Every day we're using it, yeah. So, okay. And they were all delivered today. And I did put some literature of it.
Every
in
day
your
we come into
packet.
contact with millions of pathogens
spray
that cause
technology, but
illnesses
you
in
can look at it and
spaces
see
we
how it
expect
works.
to be clean and sanitary. Traditional methods of cleaning and sanitizing are not as effective as they should be, and often aren't given the time needed to clean properly. To improve cleaning capabilities in industries where keeping surfaces and equipment sanitary
And that is
is
the
vital
machine
to
that we have
professional
purchased.
business, we've created the world's first handheld
One for
cordless
the nurse's office.
electrostatic sprayer.
In the nurse's office.
Our sprayer
in our-
is unlike any other electrostatic
nurses
sprayer on
and
the
the
market.
teachers needed it.
We designed our sprayer to
plus we have
address
other
and
sprayers too.
solve
That's
all
just
of the
the
pain
newest thing we
points
have.
experienced with traditional electrostatic sprayers. We wanted our sprayer to provide the best coverage and be the easiest to use. The other electrostatic sprayers on the market require the use of a cord for power. To eliminate the inconvenience of dragging a cord, we've outfitted the Victory Innovations electrostatic sprayer with a powerful 16.8 volt lithium-ion battery. When fully charged, this battery allows our sprayer to spray continuously for 4 hours. Not only does this battery power the sprayer, but it provides the charge for your solution, helping it to stick and wrap around the surface it's applied to. The Victory Innovation Sprayer adds a positive charge to the solution inside the tank to ensure that every particle is charged. In addition to eliminating the use of power cords and hoses and improving the way solutions are charged, our adjustable nozzle allows for a quicker and more effective application, giving the user the versatility to select the right size particle for their specific application. The Victory Innovation Sprayer makes advanced electrostatic spraying technology easily available to more industries than ever before, enabling them to use less chemicals and achieve more complete coverage in a fraction of the time it used to take. The simplicity of its design makes it easy for anyone to use and sanitize more effectively than ever before.
And now, as we said, we have other sprayers that we have that we're using as well. So we are disinfecting, we're cleaning, and as I said, we're doing everything we possibly can to mitigate the spread. Of course, we have approximately
Wayne Jacobs
8,000.
with Hotsy Carlson, Austin, Texas.
Of course, we have 8,000 students and 1,300 employees. So we're about 9,500 people that are working with us daily. So it's a bit difficult to stop the social distancing, but we can do everything we can, and we are. Our goal is to keep classes open as long as we possibly can. Any questions? Yes.
How many did you say we were going to?
We have one on each campus.
Just one?
Well, as I said, that's just the newest thing we've purchased. We have other sprayers as well. That's not the only one. And if you were there at the high school, as I was telling someone, I think Mr. Lofton, if you were at the high school the first day of school, we saw one of the custodians, he had a backpack on. And with the backpack, he was spraying all of the tables in the commons area that looks just like, this is just a handheld, but he had one of those, and he does that daily. After breakfast, after lunch, throughout the lunch periods. So all of them have that as well. So as I said, this is just the latest thing we've purchased, but we have all sorts of equipment. And as things come up that we think we can use, that are effective, we purchase them for school. So we're gonna do everything we can in order to help.
Yeah, 'cause I was just looking at it, it's not very expensive, that's why I was just wondering.
Yes. Well, we go see how it works, but I mean, as I said, we have other materials as well, other tools. That's not the only thing we have.
I have a question. I read something a few days.
Put your mic on, Mr. Ambrose.
I read something a few days ago was regarding virtual learning. Now, I know initially when the year started, there was no virtual learning, but that now.
We'll
that-
talk about that in a minute. That's part of my
Oh,
presentation.
well, okay, then I'll just wait till you get to that part.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Great.
Jumping the gun.
Well, I didn't know it was in there so much.
Okay, the next thing I'm going to talk about is requirements for posting and sending notices of performance, and it is a one-sheeter. And I know Drs. Vine and Getwood, they are very in tune to Dr. Fezenden. and Dr. Fezenden has been here with us, and he did send us something to look at when we post our requirements for testing. He is from Lead Forward and Connecting Accountability Instruction, so he's been with us several years. Now, if you look at the posting, it's requirements for posting and sending notice of performance. The first thing is from the Texas Education Code, the notice in student grade report. The first written notice of a student's performance that a school district gives during the school year as required by Section 28.022 must include a statement of whether the campus at which the student is enrolled has been awarded a distinction designation under subchapter G or has been identified as unacceptable campus. And 2, an explanation of the significance of the information provided under subdivision 1. So if you look to the right, comments and steps to take, this is very important. No district designations were awarded for the 2021 school year, and no campus was identified as an unacceptable campus. Therefore, the notice described in Section 39 can be fairly simple, and that's a notice that we have to put out. And it reads, extraordinary public health and safety circumstances inhibited the ability of the state to accurately measure district and campus performance in the 2020-21. Therefore, for 2020-21, all districts and campuses received a rating of not rated, declared state of disaster overall in each domain. Distinction designations were not awarded for 2021. So that means there are no campuses that are rated, not rated, or rated anything. They're just not rated. So and that's across the state, okay? So when you hear people say all of these things about our district, we can say that we're not even rated, and we haven't been really rated, I think, since, 19? That's what most people are looking at. On the district website, we have things that we have to put up on our district website. We have the first, is the 10th day after the first day of instruction. And if you see on the side, by the 10th day, we have to have the 2019-20 school report cards for each campus, the 2019-20 taper for the district and each campus, and the 1920 district accreditation status of the district. And those are on our website. They were up there early. It was not, we didn't wait for the 10th day. They're already on the website. We have all of the information up there for viewing. Okay, any questions? Yes.
So is it safe to assume that for this school year, 21, 22, the gloves will come off and we will be held accountable, or do we know yet?
That is safe to assume. Very safe to assume.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
Will they go back? Will they go back and look at last year's test scores or whatever and add that to the accountability of this year?
No, I don't think so. No, not at all. No, and we'll talk a little bit, the next one, we'll talk a little bit about House Bill 4545, and we'll talk about what we're doing for that. But they're not going to go back and take the accountability for 2021, due to the fact that if most of our kids were not here, some of them came in person to take the test, some did not. And it wouldn't be fair to hold those kids accountable for the last school year, because we did everything we could to hold it together, but obviously it was not a perfect year by no means. So I do not think the state will do that. I think they're looking at how we move forward, and they've put some things in place that's going to be a bit challenging to what I would say overcome. But we're going to do everything that we can in order to do that, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a second with House Bill 4545 and Senate Bill 15. But they're still looking at the 1819 scores. And remember, we've had 2 years, 1920 and 2021. Because we ended our school year in March of 20, so we did not take the STAR test or EOC in the spring of 20, nor We took it in 21, but it was not counted. Exactly. Okay.
So Kerry really ain't for the test.
Exactly.
So the last time we were rated was in 19?
We were not rated. No, the last time we were rated was 18, 19.
Okay.
The next thing, when we go to the Port Arthur Independent School District House Bill 4545 Implementation Guide, Drs. Vine and Getwood are working on how we implement all of this with our students, which is a bit much. We have looked at different districts and called on different districts to see exactly what they were doing, and we've gotten some information, so we've kind of tailored it and saw some fit. Dr. Kelsey, who's done some things to kind of tailor what we're doing with our program and with our PowerPoint. And this is just, we need to put something on the web to help parents to understand what we're faced with. So this is going to be, after we look at it and try to tweak some things with it, and there may be some things that people see that we maybe want to tweak to see before we put it up on our website. But we have to put something up because it is a crucial year. And there's some things that we must do that has been mandated for us to do by the state. Okay? So I'm going to go through this a little slow so we can understand what we're doing. Let me get my, let's see. Okay. This is the House Bill 4545 Implementation Guide. Now, what is House Bill 4545? It establishes new requirements for supplemental accelerated instruction for students who do not pass the State of Texas Assessments of Academic Readiness STAR tests. Districts are mandated to establish supplemental accelerated instruction practices during the 2021-22 school year and beyond for all students based on their STAR results from spring 2021. So in essence, what that is saying is the test that was taken in the spring of 21, which was the STAR test, if a student did not pass that test, they have to go through accelerated instruction. And there are different categories with that, and we'll get to that in a minute. If they did pass, they do not. But also, we also have to take into account if a student did not take the test, they still have to go through accelerated instruction. Not if they didn't take it or they didn't pass. And remember, we had a whole lot of students that did not take the test. Okay. If a student, the test that was taken in the spring, for students that were in person, that came to school, but remember, only 50% of our students were in person. But we did have some students that did come to school to take the test, but not all. If the student did not pass, then they have to go through an accelerated instructional period for every test that they did not master or did not meet minimal qualifications on. Okay? If they did, they're okay. If they didn't take anything, they still fall under the accelerated instruction. If they did not, even if they took no test, they still fall under it.
Did you say the percentage of those students? Do you know?
No. Well, I'll get to that in a minute. Then we have to. Okay, let me go back. Okay. Who needs what? Now, this is something that we're working on, and this is something that we were given from TEA, and the more I read it, we kind of tweaked it a little bit, but the more I read this, the decision matrix, it really didn't make sense to me. But on this one, it says, for every student who was in grade 3 through 12 last year, use the following decision matrix, and we're going to work on that. Did the student pass STAR or EOC BOY? BOY is beginning of year test, okay, which we are given now. The beginning of year test is being given in the Port Arthur Independent School District it started yesterday. And it's a test that is generated by TEA and is designed per TEKS. We've decided in this district that every student would take the BOY even if they passed STAR. The reasons for that is just easier because we already are dealing with lack of staff. If we would have had to pull students out and have a group of students taking BOY and another group of students going through the regular instruction, we wouldn't have had enough people to do that. So, and then it helps to see where those students are today. So we've had some glitches, of course, but right now everyone is working on the beginning of year test. Now, if they pass, well, if a student failed the STAR test, EOC, in the spring, they still are under the accelerated House Bill 4545, even if they pass BOY. If a student passes BOY that did not take the test, then they're okay. And I'm going to ask Dr. Bond and Dr. Getwood if I'm saying something incorrect to help me with it, because it's a lot. Okay, so that's where we are. So every student in grades 3 through 5 are taking this test. Now remember, it's in all subject areas at this time, and I'll get to that as we move forward. All tested areas. Okay, go ahead.
So what you're saying is that those that didn't take the test, take the BOY, right? And
Yes.
pass, they're good.
They're good.
But if they took the STAR and failed the STAR and passed the BOY, then they still have to go through the process, the accelerated
Correct.
process.
Is that, yes.
Is that right?
That's what it is.
But did I understand you just said that we're all going to take the BOY?
We all are taking the BOY.
Okay.
We need to find out, because it's an assessment to see where our students are right now, the beginning of your test. And remember, it is generated by TEA. Okay, did the student pass the STAR or EOC beginning of your test? If the answer is yes, no action required. If the answer is no, must provide individualized acceleration. Now, we worked on this because even in the decision matrix from TEA, it stated, did the student take 3rd, 5th, and 8th grade math or reading? And if the answer was no, it had no ALC required. But that's not true, because it is required. So I wasn't sure why TEA, I was not sure on that. So we worked on that back and forth. But if the student failed or did not take the 3rd, 5th, or 8th grade STAR, and the answer is yes to that, then ALC is required. And then it goes, this means the ALC must ensure success in grades 4, 6, and 9. Now, what that means is, if a 3rd, 5th, or 8th grade student did not pass last year, remember they passed to 4th, 6th, and 9th. Now, the BOY that we're giving this week is from last year. They're not being tested over this year's material because they have not been taught. So we're testing them over last year's material. Okay, individualized acceleration. We will individualize acceleration with House Bill 4545. House Bill 4545 changes these existing practices. It reduces 5th and 8th grade STAR to one single administration. Now, what does that mean? If you recall, in past years, our 5th and 8th grade students were able to take the first test that was administered. If they failed, they were given another opportunity before the end of the year, and it still counted for us. And if they failed the second test, then they had to come. They were I'm not gonna say that. Well, we encouraged them to come to summer school, and some didn't, and they just came to take the test. But then they had the summer to take that. So that's been changed. So 5th and 8th grade STAR has moved to one single administration. So they will not have opportunity to take the test multiple times. Yes.
Okay, so what's to happen if the student was to fail the first time? So
If he fails the first time, then we go to
Accelerate.
accelerated learning. Okay, yes. So there's, and once again, remember what I said. If a student in the past, if a student did not pass the first time, then principals took those students and they did remediation for them until the next administration.
So-
And that was part of our accountability. The second test counted as part of our accountability.
So how are we gonna know if we're not gonna administer the second test, how are you gonna know if they improved from the first test?
You won't until
we take it
acceleration.
in the next following year.
Exactly, but we have to go through they have to go through, well, we're gonna get to that too, how long the acceleration, and I'll get to that in a minute. So you'll understand a little bit more once I get to this part. And we're going real slow, because every time I read it, I think of something else. Eliminates grade placement committees. Now remember, at the end of the administration, there was a grade placement committee, the GPC committee, which you've heard about, where parents, principals, and teachers would get together and they would decide if a student was able to be promoted to the next grade, even though they did not pass the STAR. That has gone away. And it removes retention for 5th and 8th grade students solely on the basis of the STAR. Now you have the last thing on your sheet, but that is something algebra, I don't have it with me, but it was algebra 1, algebra 2, and English 3. Now that was optional, and that was an option. They could have taken the algebra 2 test or the English 3 if they choose. That was part, but we did not. I don't think we even went through that. We didn't have that, but that's part of what the state is saying. On the other side, to focus better on these areas of need, creates accelerated learning committees, ALCs, for students in grades 3, 5, and 8 who did not pass, did not take STAR reading or math. And I'll get to what the ALC committee is. Requires individualized acceleration for students in any grade with STAR or EOC who did not pass, did not take the exam, and provides mechanism for parents to request specific teachers and or test content or implementation of accelerated plans. Okay, when the individualized acceleration plan goes in place, there are two options. The first option is placed with a TIA designated teacher. Now, when we talk about a TIA designated teacher, we're talking about a teacher incentive allotment. And you may have heard us talk about that, where teachers would be counted as exemplary, recognized, and then there's a third one. But they would have to be placed with that teacher. Under option 1, enroll the student in a class with a teacher certified mastery, exemplary, or recognized. Now, we're going to have those teachers, but we're not there yet. We talked, Ms. Londo, we're trying to get into cohort, I think 4 is what it is, and our application will go in April. So they're not new teachers, they're teachers that we have in our district that will meet the criteria. And those are the teachers, if you recall, we stated could earn up to $30,000 in addition to their salary. And that would be the exemplary teacher. Then the recognized teacher, and I think it was something like maybe 10 or 15, and then a little lower for the recognized. The recognized.
Let me ask a question. Do we have any assistant principals or counselors that would possibly fall in any of these categories to take on those added responsibilities should the need arise?
I think there's a possibility, and there's always a window where any certified personnel could teach these courses if need be. That's thinking outside of the box, and it's going to take a lot of thought. It's going to take a lot of discussion, because once, we'd have to see who would be willing to do that. I don't know if that's something that we would want to mandate.
No,
That, yeah, no, I'm just, yeah. But I think any certified educator could step into one of those positions.
And they would actually receive an additional.
Well, no, they can't step in that position as this is only for teachers. Yes, this is for teachers. And we talked about, this would, if a teacher is able, if a $60,000 a year teacher whose regular salary is $60,000 and they become an exemplary teacher and they add $30,000 to their salary, why would they want to be an administrator when they're making $90,000 in the classroom?
So for the sake of doing so, if an assistant principal or counselor would consider this, is there some monetary gain for them or just?
Well, to try to answer your question as what I think you're asking, if an assistant principal or a counselor chose to go back into the classroom and do it, I guess they could.
Right.
Yeah, we hope not, but we hope they could, yes.
Okay, so for the teachers that will be, that will meet the criteria of the TIA, will that like be their sole job, or will that be?
Yes, there'll be teachers that will have those, that criteria, that credentials for those, and they would be,
Who's gonna determine that?
we would have, it's a long application, and there's criteria that we have to put in place. And the basic is the scores of the teachers. How well of a teacher, not just because you like them, but what have they produced? Are they really, really good teachers? Yeah, if they go beyond the call of duty. And then the second bullet, you'll see, the teacher must be certified and teaching the student in the subject area that the student failed or did not take. Now, that's option one. And that's going to be difficult for us to do, because remember, we're working with a lot of substitutes. We're working with staff members that are not in that category. Or we could do option two, which is where we lean, and this is something that you were asking earlier. Provide 30 hours of tutoring. Provide 30 hours of tutoring in each subject that the student failed or did not take. The tutoring must cover the TEKS, supplement normal instruction, occur at least once per week until 30 hours is reached, be provided in a group no larger than 3 to 1, be provided by the same person as much as possible, not occur as a pullout from grade level content, grade level enrichment, recess, or PE. So what we're saying there is, for instance, you have a fifth grader who did not master reading. Then we would have to provide 30 hours of accelerated instruction to that student for reading. And it would have to be in addition to the regular hours.
So this would be
Okay.
after school?
After school?
After school, Saturday school, before school. There may be some times, and when we talk about that in secondary, they may have some, and it's times on the secondary level that they have study time and all that. That it's easier, it appears to me sometimes, this is the first time I'm saying anything about secondary, but it's easier maybe to figure out a schedule for secondary than it would be for elementary. But also keep in context that you make that same fifth grader may have failed reading, math, and science. So what does that mean? 30 times 3, which is 90 hours that we would have to provide accelerated instruction for.
On top of what they're already taking.
On top of what they're already taking. Now remember, now that's and I'm trying to get this in my head as well as I'm talking, so that's why I'm talking slow. You're talking about a fifth grader, but a fifth grader has gone to sixth grade, but they're still being instructed, correct, in those subject areas. Okay, so it puts a little bit more of a pressure, I guess, on how we do this. This is the what, as we know. So now we're trying to figure out how you do it. Then you have to find teachers to do
Don't
it.
wanna do it.
So is this somewhat similar to kind of like the credit recovery in a way?
Well, I guess it could be credit recovery. If they fail, credit recovery is if they failed a course.
Yeah.
And this is if they failed a test. So now, to your question, they may have passed the course, but failed the test.
And when does this start to begin?
It started. It's right now. When does it start? It started. So we're trying to figure out how. So we have option one that is not one of our better options because we really don't have the teachers nor the program for that, but option two is where we're leaning. Okay, what are accelerated learning committees? ALCs are for any student who did not pass or did not take STAR EOC in grades 3, 5, and 8. They are now likely in grades 4, 6, and 9. So who is a member of an ALC? The principal or designee at the receiving school, student's parent or guardian, the teacher of the subject the student failed, the 5th grade reading teacher for a student who failed, did not take 5th grade or did not take 5th grade STAR reading, and recommended the teacher of the subject the student failed at the receiving school. So that's the member of the ALCs. What does the ALC do? They create a written learning plan for the student, provide a copy to the parent or guardian, monitor the student's progress throughout the year, and if the student fails STAR EOC after having an ALC, then the ALC must meet, identify the reason, and adjust the learning plan to ensure success. Now, and we have to think, if the student is taking the 30 hours for the content test that he took or she took and did not pass, and they take the test again and do not pass, we have to do another 30 hours. So it's just not that 130 and is over. We have to do another. Okay? So it's a lot. It's a lot. Yes.
Are we going to continue to promote the student to the next level, in the event that the scenario that you just identified happened?
Okay.
Because now we're talking about going into a whole other school year, and he still hadn't.
Okay, now let's go back. What did we say up here? What did we say? We will individualize acceleration with, and we said HB 45 changes these existing practices. And look at that third bullet. It says removes retention for 5th and 8th grade students solely on the basis of STAR. To answer your question, House Bill 4545 says you cannot fail a kid solely based on he or she failing the STAR. And remember what I said, they could have passed the class but failed the test. So you cannot hold them back for failing the test. So that answers your question through House Bill 4545. That's a good word to use. That's a good adjective. Very complicated. That's yeah, it is complicated. It is. Individualized accelerated versus intervention. The individualized acceleration, option one, assigning a classroom teacher who is a certified master exemplary or recognized teacher. Option two, delivering supplemental instruction, tutoring, meeting HB 45 requirements. That's the what. When, for option two, supplemental instruction, tutoring before, after school, or embedded in the school day and meeting House Bill 4545 requirements. And who, for any student who did not pass STAR grades 3 through 8 EOC beginning of year assessments. And then you can get more information. Intervention, building foundational skills and closing learning gaps to access grade level learning outside of the Tier 1 instruction, students who need a Tier 2 or 3 intervention plan, and PASD RTI plan. So, as I say, we are leaning toward the 30 hours of tutorial, which is best for us. Now, this is just a sample of the individualized acceleration sample roster, because right now we're trying to, at the bottom you can see we need to sort a list by status of content. We need to figure out which students are they. So TEA, TEA is going to give us a list, and the commissioner did talk about that today, and he talked about that last week, that there is a list coming out that they're going to give us that will show which students were virtual, which students did not pass the STAR. So they have this information already, some of it. And then the other part, we will have to provide. And they're giving us this information basically for Senate Bill 15, which we'll talk about a little bit. But that's going to help us decide or see which students we have. So we have to get a list of all the students. We can work, and we're working on that as well.
You know, the students that you move cause is going to struggle is the migrant students.
Well,
How that's going.
migrant students, students who were virtual all year long, students who did not come to school, students that were in person that did not really grasp the materials because of everything was going on. So it's going to affect a lot of students. Yes. But this is a sample roster, how we'll figure out who and what we're going to do. Sort the list by status, by content, type yes or no to the student if it's enrolled in a TIA class or no. Determine the number of students left that needs tutoring. So we have to get our student roster together now. How can students provide individualized instruction? Principals have multiple options to provide the necessary individualized acceleration to students. Principals can consider any or all of these. Keep the master schedule the same, but minimize placement of individualized acceleration students with TIA designated teachers. That's out for us, I think. To change the master schedule to maximize placement with TIA designated teacher. I'm sure that's not one of Mrs. Beatty's favorites. Of course, not changing the master schedule at this point. Convert advisory periods to individualized acceleration periods. Now, that may be an option, and I guess the only question I would have for that one is that will that take away from the 75,600 hours if we start converting advisory periods? If that was one, I'm not sure that would be something for secondary advisory periods. 4, create strong plans for before or after school tutorial. That's doable. Convert double block periods to a single core instruction block and an individualized acceleration block. That's doable. But that takes a lot of planning, a lot of discussion, a lot of planning, which we don't have.
Considering our transportation as well.
Transportation is always in there trying to get students back and forth, yes. Sample after school schedule. We could have an option 1 where from 3:30 to 4, a student would take math on Monday and Wednesday. That would be 1 hour for that week, and reading on Tuesday, Thursday. That would be for probably a 3rd or 4th grade student. Option 2, 3:30 to 4, they could take 2 math Monday and Tuesday and reading on Wednesday, Thursday, or you could do an option 3, math and reading for 30 minutes and then try to figure out the other 30, or option 4 from 4 to 4:30, or option 3 is we could do a 3:30 to 4:30 where they'd have math and reading or reading and math. So there are different options. That's just a sample of how we could do this, and that's for after school, or we could do something, add something in there for a Saturday as well. For students who did not take STAR, if they achieve an approaches plus equivalent on BOY, then acceleration instruction is not required. If students, now remember, that's what we said earlier. If a student who did not take STAR, if they achieve an approaches plus equivalent on the beginning of the year, then accelerated instruction is not required for only those students who did not take the STAR. But we're giving it to all students so we can assess where they are. Okay?
That's a lot.
Any questions on House Bill 45 and any additions? Okay. It's a lot. It's a lot, as we've said, and it's a lot on teachers because you have to, and really understand this, it's an understanding when you have students that have been promoted to the next grade, then you have to think about how those teachers in that particular grade are going to give the accelerated instruction for the courses that were below. And I guess I'm just thinking about that now. for fifth grade, when they move up to reading, from a fifth grade when they took reading, math, and science, then teachers in sixth grade at Thomas Jefferson and Lincoln are going to have to figure out a way to give that instruction for those tests that are the lower grades. So all of that are questionable as to how you do it. Now, as I say, this is the what, but then we have the how. Now, the next thing we have on it, now remember, that's everything. And as we said, that was all courses that we're looking at. There's a bill out, House Bill 233, which is the next thing in your packet. Now, that bill was on the table, and it helped us out a little bit because it lowered the content areas. It went from all tested areas to just math or reading, and then it went from 3-to-1 to 4-to-1, which gives us one more student for tutorials. But now, when it went to the floor, the last set during the second legislative session, it made it to the floor, but then the session ended. So what we're hoping is that this will make it to discussion for the third legislative session that the governor is calling. And we hope that it's discussed and passed. And that will help us out tremendously if we're just talking about reading and math. If we're not talking about just reading and math and it doesn't pass, then we have a lot of discussion to do. Okay, so we're waiting. So a lot of it is a waiting game. Now, for Senate Bill 15, when we talk about remote learning, to what Mrs. Ambrose was asking, there is Senate Bill 15, which, and let me say this, it is optional. It is not mandated for us to have a virtual program. Once again, it's optional that we have it. It is not mandated, all right?
Let me stop you. Let me ask, and this is just something that just popped into my head. If it is optional, is there anything that we could possibly do to kind of balance the scales in terms of the hours, the 30 hours we're needing? In other words, if we can do this virtual?
Okay, let me ask it. No. Remember, two different bills. You have House Bill 4545 that's mandated, and they've given us the path of how it is to be implemented. Yes. Senate Bill 15 is a totally different bill, and it's remote learning. Oh, no, definitely not. No, we can't overlap any of it. No, we cannot. But now I'll say this. With Senate Bill 15, it's a virtual remote learning, and there's a lot to that. There's a lot to that bill as well. In order for us to be able to participate, a district had to have a C or better district-wide earned, the alphabet, A to F rating. A district has to have a C or better to participate, which we qualify, so we can have a virtual avenue for our students. But then there are different qualifications for that. Well, we have some parents that are asking for remote learning. However, everyone is not going to qualify. If a student was remote last year, totally remote, they don't qualify for remote this year. If a student, it's a three test. If they had 17 unexcused absences, they don't qualify. If they failed English, math, social studies, they don't qualify. If they did not pass the STAR test in any one of those STAR scores, they do not qualify. So they're different. They're different. It's a lot of students that would not qualify. But we also understand that there are students that we want to help, and those are possibly medically fragile students that we would want to help. Now, there are a number of students that parents have opted to have their students homebound from special education with the special ed now. So that may be something that our director of special ed did say, that there was one homebound teacher that is at her max right now, and that has not been in a long time. So there are those students that possibly would fit in a virtual type setting, but there's so many restrictions that we're going to have to sit down and dissect which students could be virtual, and it caps at 10%. 10% of your total student body. So for instance, our total numbers are 8,000 students. So only 800 students could enter into virtual.
So no more than 800?
No more than 800 because it's 10%, it's a cap. Is district-wide. The number is 10% of our total student population. So that means district-wide, and that is for the local remote conferencing. Then there is a remote conferencing that deals only with the health, and that is limited at 20 days. They can only have it for 20 days. But if there is a waiver that they would present to TEA, then it could be longer. But there's remote learning that deals with health. Then there's local remote that deals with the cap of 10%. And if a student, and from what I've been reading, if a student enters and gets out, that student still counts for our 10%. It's not like if a student goes in and out, we can bring more students in. It's 800 students, and once we reach that max, then it's over. But I'm going to say this, I'm not sure if we would even have 800 students because of the restrictions that are involved with choosing the students, because a lot of them just do not qualify. So that's a little bit about Senate Bill 15, and we'll talk more about it later. But our staff members are working, and it is a lot. It's a lot, and I do know that sometimes I push and I want to know why things are not happening quicker and why things are not faster and why we don't have a plan. Yes, I admit that. But the more I read, the more I get into it, the more I understand why it's taking a little bit more time. And that's why I ask questions and try to dig and assist and try to help to see where, now that I'm taking over, I don't want to do that. But it is a lot, and it's going to take a lot of time. It's going to take our staff members, it's going to take parents, it's going to take principals, it's going to take teachers, all of us to sit down and figure out exactly how to do this. Now, what I said, this is the what we have to do. And now we have to figure out how we implement. And we don't have a lot of time because eventually, the test is going to come upon us.
Exactly.
And we have to figure out what we have done. And they're telling us this year we have to put something in place that makes sense, though. We just can't haphazardly put something out there, but it needs to make sense and address the issues of our students. Any additions? Anyone out there would like to say anything, or? Well, the more I read, the more I learn, I tell you. Any questions?
No, Doc, I was going to say one thing. I was, with all this information that we're trying to grasp in so little time, are we going to make it, I'm not going to say it need to be put out there plain and clear for the community and the parents to understand, because
Simplest form possible.
like Mr. Lofton just said, the simplest form possible. If we can get it to them some type of way, or have something where they can at least understand what's coming, what's getting ready to happen, or what's going on, and what to look forward to in the future.
Yes. Well, let me say this. This presentation here comes from a lengthy summary from TEA. Now, it takes a lot of reading. It takes us to read it more than one time just to grasp it. So this is breaking it down. So that's why we're trying to come up with something to put on our webpage for parents to understand. But once we get it, and once our principals get it, then our principals can make presentations to their parents at some point. But as you said, in the simplest form, but none of it is simple. That's the problem. It's not really as simple as it states. Now, I'm having to say this very, very slowly for me to comprehend. And I've even saying it now, I've learned something and I see something that thinking about something we need to do. So it's like a book. Every time you read it and go over it, you think of something else, or you come to a different challenge within our community. But we're going to do everything that we possibly can to get it over to our parents. But once again, we have to understand it first and try to figure out. And talking to other superintendents, all of us are at a not a standstill, but we're wondering, well, what is it? Well, how do we do it, and what can we do? So it's not just us that are kind of going through the aha and the thought pattern. Is everyone. Yes.
I was just gonna add, because it is so much information to break down, just a suggestion, if we could, possibly, is there any way that we can hold like a town hall meeting or something to break it down in person?
Sure. We can break it down in person, and we can have town hall meetings, but that's why I was saying that we possibly may want to have our principals break it down to their parents.
Yeah, and that's what I mean, if they can do it on their campus.
And our principals do that. Now, this is something that Dr. Vine and Dr. Getwood would have to help me out. At some point, principals had to go over the taper report at some point on their campus, or they went over the taper report at the open house or something like that at some point. So that may be a time when, if we're still doing that, I don't even know if we're still doing that anymore, but that may be a time that principals would be able to deliver this information to their parents. And I think they would know it as well, and then we have to do the bilingual part of it to make sure they understand. So there are a lot of, and then every parent has a different challenge, because we have, once again, we have the bilingual parents, we have our special education parents, we have our regular ed that we'd have to talk about and talk to. So we just have to sit down and figure out how we do all of this.
But I do agree, we must understand it first.
Yes, we have to understand it first and try to do the best we can for our students. But it does, and you have to understand that these students are also learning this year's curriculum on top of everything else that they're trying to learn from last year.
Some didn't understand the year before.
I was gonna ask the question, and I know that it's virtually, no pun intended, impossible, because you can't necessarily get another waiver because of the new variant of COVID, because it just keeps on piling up on top of each other, and you never.
There are no waivers out there. No. The only thing I did hear today that was positive is that there have been superintendents that have asked if we would, are they going to do anything for the hold harmless? Because that was last year, because a lot of the numbers are not up in districts. So there is something that's going to be done, but he wouldn't commit to anything. So it would be something that would be done to help us with our finances, but nothing that is in committal form at this point. So we're going to keep moving and keep asking questions and keep talking with one another. But I do say we have to come up with a plan. And as I said, the BOY is being administered right now. So that is, at most campuses going well. We've had some technology issues at some campuses that we've addressed, but by next week. And the BOY is real simple, because once they take it, we have an immediate response back, because it's done on the computers. It's a technological test. It's a technology test. So it's not a paper pencil test. They're taking it on the computer. So we get our test results pretty quickly. So that's going to help us to create the list of students that need to be under ALC and accelerated instruction. So, yeah, that's coming up. Okay, we'll tell you about that in a minute. Okay, so that concludes our staff reports, but it's still fun. It's still fun, and we understand what we need to do, and we're going to do it. It's going to work. As I said, that's the how. That's the what. We're just not quite sure as to how to implement all of it. And the more I will say is, the more you talk about it, the more challenging I think it seems to become.
I'm confident we got it. We got this.
Well, we're gonna sure try. We're gonna sure try. So that concludes our report.
Thank you, Dr. Portery. Understanding that is a lot to absorb and to understand, but knowing you and your executive team, we know y'all got it. Y'all gonna handle the job. You're gonna make sure it happened for our kids and do it the right way. Well, we thank you for that in advance.
Thank you.
Oh, God.
Thank you.
Okay, minutes. Consider and if appropriate approve minutes of the August 26, 2021 regular board meeting. Can I have a motion on the floor by Trustee Ambrose? Second by Trustee Guillory. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Consent agenda. The following items, which are of a routine and recurrent nature, has been designated consent agenda. Gotcha. Okay. The following items, which are of a routine and recurrent nature, has been designated consent agenda items by the board president per policy BE local. All of the items in the consent agenda will be acted upon by one vote without being discussed separately unless requested by a trustee, in which event the item or items will be withdrawn immediately for individual consideration in its normal sequence after the items not requiring separate discussion has been acted upon. Trustees, I'm going to give you a minute to look through your consent agenda items. We're going to pull consent agenda item number 3.
Number 3.
Number 2.
2, 3.
No.
Just number 3.
Just number 3.
Yeah.
And we're going to discuss it. It's a parameter cell.
So which one are you pulling?
Mr. Giller, just okay, gotcha. Okay. Number 3, we'll just be pulling number 3. Yes.
Oh, just number 3?
Yes, just number 3.
Okay.
So I get the motion on the table for consent agenda items number 1, 2, 4 through 13, and 14 through 22.
So moved.
Second. Have a motion on by Mr. Getwood and second by Vice President Lofton. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Dr. Portery.
Thank you. On number 3, we are asking for the approval authorizing the issuance and sale by the district of unlimited tax refund bonds, which order is titled as follows. So you have that in your agenda, and tonight we do have with us Mr. Clarence Greer from RBC and Lance Fox, our bond attorney. So we're really familiar with these two gentlemen, and they've been with us every step of the way. So I'm going to ask that both of them, please come and explain to us what number 3 is and what we're doing.
Good evening, President Barty, Dr. Portery, members of the board. Good evening. Again, my name is Clarence Greer, member of your financial advisory team, along with Lance Fox, member of your legal team, your bond counsel specifically, along with your general counsel. I want to call your attention real briefly to an item that was placed on your, in front of you on, that says, it looks like this. It's a little handout. I want to just call your attention to one page, if you will, to kind of give a synopsis. It's on page 9 of that handout. A lot of interesting information that you can look at. But I think at the end of the day, page 9 is the summary of what we really want to bring to the board's attention for tonight's action item. So taking it back, 2012, the board authorized the issuance of some debt, and it carried an interest rate about 4 or 5%. And as you fast forward to 2021, we're looking, just like you probably have refinanced your house, your mortgage, we're looking to replace those 4 and 5% interest rates to a rate that's going to be sub 3%, thereby saving taxpayers money. And so very strong transaction. We like it as your advisor. We're looking at total taxpayer savings of upwards of over $2 million in today's market. Now, there's a lot of volatility in the market, and so it could be a little bit higher, a little bit lower. But tonight, the parameter for the board is to provide the authorization for the pricing officers, and Lance can define who those individuals are, Dr. Portery, and maybe Ms. Davis and Ms. Jeans would be able to sign and authorize and enter into lock in this interest rate once you prepare the transaction. So not too dissimilar to what you may have done on your mortgages lately. You will be doing it for your taxpayers. And this is something that we've done before. And this authorization is good for, I believe, 180 days. So it's not something we have to go and rush out and do. But we do have a sense of urgency since there's pretty significant savings. What we would like to have, the order before you says we want the savings to be above 4%, and versus the amount that's refunding. We're only looking at about just under $15 million of bonds to refinance and lower the interest rate. And that produces about over 10% savings in today's market. So we feel comfortable with the benchmark of 4% that we'll be able to achieve that. So overall, we'd like to deal, we recommend it to the board to pursue it. And if and when all the parameters are met, then we can pull the trigger. And again, you have 180 days in order to price the transaction. I think price or close it. You want any clarifications, Lance?
No, just you covered it, same thing you did last year and done in the year past. So it's the standard refinancing of the state money for the district and good opportunity and very broad opinion. So I certainly recommend you improve and go forward.
Any questions?
Is there a special motion that the board needs to make, or we can just approve this item?
I have a question.
Ms. Ambrose.
I just have one question. So you're saying that we have 180 days to make the final decision, and you feel comfortable with the percentage?
We do. We feel like interest rates, there's some talk with the reserves about inflation and interest rates moving higher. There's a motivation to move forward with this in pretty expeditious manner. Want to allow inflation, this opportunity to evaporate. So, with your consent, we'll begin the process and start talking to the rating agency. I think your staff has done an excellent job of maintaining our rating, and because of that, with Dr. Portery's leadership, we can act on this to save money, because these bonds are not guaranteed by the permanent school fund guarantee. These bonds are carrying the rating of the district. So, so just think about all the things we've been able to navigate around and still have an investment grade rating to achieve this. Kudos to Dr. Portery, kudos to Ms. Jeans and Ms. Davis for positioning us to even have this opportunity. So we definitely want to move in a very expeditious manner. But yes, ma'am, we do have up to 180 days in order to get it done. Okay. But we anticipate being ready to price probably before the end of October.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Any more questions by the trustees? I'd like to call for a vote for the consent agenda item number 3. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. The motion is passed. That's what I asked you the first.
We never got a motion.
Never got a motion, so I need to go back and read.
Yeah, you need to get a motion before you vote.
Okay.
So move.
I have a motion on the floor by trustee Ambrose, second by Vice President Lofton. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Personnel.
Yes. President Barty, board members, you do have a copy of the, for teachers, and we're asking for your approval.
Consider if it's appropriate to approve the employment of teachers. Can I have a motion?
So move.
I have a motion on the floor by trustee Lofton and second by trustee Getwood. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Dr. Porter.
We are asking for the approval and employment for the ELA elementary supervisor, Mrs. Skylar Slaughter.
Can I get a motion on the floor?
So move.
Second?
Second.
I have a motion on the floor by Vice President Lofton and second by trustee Ambrose. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Dr. Porter.
We're asking for the employment of Director of Bilingual, Dr. Carla Obregon.
Can I have a motion on the floor?
So move.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor by Vice President Lofton and second by trustee Getwood. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Information, Dr. Porter.
Yes. For the month of August, average daily enrollment was 7,672. Average daily attendance, 92.97%.
Thank you, Dr. Porter. And before the meeting adjourned, Mrs. Davis, let's have on record that Mr. Guillory joined us at 5:45. I'm sorry, I meant to get that to you at the beginning of the meeting. Thank you. Let's have a motion to adjourn the meeting at 7:52. We have a motion on the floor by trustee Ambrose, second by
Me. Aye. Second.
Vice President and Mr. Getwood. All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Thank you and have a good night.